Greetings in Christ. So, what translation of the Bible do I like to use? Before I answer that question, I want to quote to you Jeremiah chapter 15, verse 16. Jeremiah says, "When I found your words, I devoured them. They became my joy and the happiness of my heart." Every Catholic should read his Bible every day. Okay, listen. My favorite translation, or my go-to translation, is the NAB, the New American Bible, mainly because it's the one that we use in the liturgy here in the US, and it is, frankly, it's an excellent translation. What I'm looking for in a translation is, first of all, it's got to be a faithful translation of the original language. You want to know what the text actually says, but it also has to be comprehensible, especially for preaching. If there's some awkward translation, it just loses the impact. It has to be comprehensible. The NAB, it's a comprehensible translation, and apparently it's quite faithful to the original text. My second go-to translation is the RSV. Sometimes the NAB doesn't really work for me. I'll go to the RSV, and sometimes the RSV has a much better translation, and also apparently quite faithful to the original language. And I think used in Canada. Canada has a version of the RSV in the liturgy. Okay, and then after that, I'll look at a bunch of other translations. For the Psalms, the breviary that we use has a beautiful translation of the Psalms. Apparently, it's not quite as literal. Apparently, they use a little bit of, I don't know what license to have a more readable, beautiful English version, but beautiful translation in the Psalms that we read in the Liturgy of the Hours. And then what I'll do is I'll take a look sometimes at the, don't judge me, at the Good News translation, Catholic edition. Sometimes the translation in the NAB or the RSV, it's just not that comprehensible. I'll go to the Good News Bible, and sometimes it makes it more simple, especially some of those odd Old Testament passages. They're just so weird, and the Good News translation will it's a bit of an interpretation, but sometimes I'll use some of the Good News translation. Also, a lot of people like the New Jerusalem Bible, so I'll consult the New Jerusalem Bible sometimes, and sometimes that will give me a good translation. And then finally, the Douay Rheims version is probably the least, well, not probably, it is the least readable, and you're probably least likely to use that in preaching for simple comprehension. But the Douay Rheims version does sometimes, in its translation, gives insight or perhaps accuracy that it's good to consult. And so that's kind of the long answer, but the shortest answer is my preaching Bible at my church is the New American Bible. When I travel, it's the RSV, simply because I have a little RSV. It's compact for traveling and also a good translation. The odd time, I'll even go on the internet and go to some of those websites that have all kinds of different translations, including some of the Protestant translations, to, again, maybe get some more insights on a good way to translate a text. And sometimes I'll even go to those websites to take a look at the translation, the word-for-word translation of the original language. I don't do that too often, but that's a simple thing to do now with the internet. So hopefully that helps you. Viva Christore.